We're in the midst of a huge transformation where peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am super excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Melanie Margolin. She's the Chief Legal Officer at Thumbtack. Melanie, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns and when you were younger, do you remember how exactly you answered this question of what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me, Christina. I'm excited to be here. I'm Melanie Margolin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am, as you said, the Chief Legal Officer of Thumbtack. And I repeat that only because when I answered that question as a child, I didn't know I wanted to be the Chief Legal Officer of something, but I did know very early on that I wanted to be a lawyer. As cliche as it may be, when we read To Kill a Mockingbird, I think I was in fourth grade. That story really stuck with me. It hit a lot of things that have actually been themes through my life of wanting to make sure that everyone has a voice, wanting to make sure that people are treated equitably, standing up for people who are mistreated when you can. I think it really is a timeless novel that really goes into our allyship now today. So even from a very early age, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer.
I love that. As a former mock trial kid, I could definitely relate to that as well. I think along the way and throughout our journey, folks really help us, get that feedback and ask questions around their current roles as well. And some could even turn into mentors too. I know you've spoken about really the importance of mentorship in your current role as a leader. Looking back, what role has mentorship played in your career and getting to where you are today?
Yeah, I have spoken a lot about this and I will continue to because I think it is such an important part of everyone's career. And the thing that I think goes sort of unspoken where it shouldn't is that mentorship is a two-way street. So now I'm more senior in my career and I serve as a mentor for quite a few people. And it is something that I love. I think it's really important to be a mentor because as an employee at a company or even at a different company, someone coming up in a different field or maybe even in your field, it is great to be able to have someone to go to for guidance, right? And for mentorship. But as the mentor now, I always get as much out of those conversations and meetings and questions and interactions as I think the mentee gets. And I think being open to that two-way street is super important. So for me, mentorship came in early. When I was a young lawyer, I was at a law firm, and you just found sort of informal mentors. You had a lot of folks who would spend time, they'd take you to lunch, or they'd come in your office in the morning or in the afternoon, and they would say, hey, what are you working on this week? Little moments like that where you actually developed a sense of belonging and a sense of self and how you were going to contribute to the law firm and to those clients. As I became more senior, though, I think the most important mentor that I had was in my first in house role. So I spent a lot of time in a law firm. And then I went in house as a global litigator, and I was good at that job. I'd been a litigator for 15 or 16 years, but I worked for a general counsel who wanted more than just what you were good at, right? And she mentored me to fill in gaps, not just to focus on what I was good at, but to look at different things that I could also be good at. And she helped really create the career path that I'm on today.
I love that. I think that's really important also to hone in on what you're good at, but also be challenged, have those stretch assignments, learn kind of what is out there as well in terms of, stretching yourself too. And I think when we talk about mentors, I know some people use the term kind of personal board of directors. We have sponsors, conversations that are happening when you're not in the room as well. While both mentorship and sponsorship are really important to that career journey, they are different things as well. There could be overlap, but the definitions of those are different. How do you really define mentorship and sponsorship and why each is important in that career journey?
Yeah, sure. Now, there's lots of schools of thought on this, and I don't pretend to be right. This is just the way that I sort of think of the two concepts. I think a mentor is someone who you can go to really with anything. I'm having this problem at work. I'm looking at this challenge at work. I'm thinking about a new career path. can you tell me how you would approach this? Or even I'm wondering about this thing in your career. It's really someone who you can use as a guide to either get to the next level or just sort of, level out where you are and understand what all the pieces are of your career. But they're there for you, right? They're there to help you be the best you in that role. A sponsor can very much be that same person, but the sponsorship piece is maybe even a little more important at various stages in your career, in my mind. A sponsor is someone who is invested in you, who sees your talent, who knows what contributions you're making. But the sponsor plays a unique role in that he or she really needs to be in a position of power to advocate for you. So while I may go to my mentor with 3 or 4 things that are just driving me crazy this week, and I just need some guidance and I need to, have someone to brainstorm with, I'm going to my sponsor and hoping my sponsor's coming to me when I'm ready for promotion, when I want that next step. And I'm saying to them, what do you see that's missing? And what are you going to say when you're in that room to help me get to the next level? And hopefully that sponsor is saying, hey, look, I saw you do a great job in that meeting, and I know that your portfolio is growing and your scope has expanded. I think we're ready to put you up for promotion. Let's put this dossier together. Let me recommend you next time. They're taking you to the next level. And I think both are really, really critical in people's careers.
I think that's helpful differentiation as well in terms of questions you might ask your mentor or sponsor and those two-way relationships as you were talking about too. I think that in any relationship, whether it is work related, personal related, you're bound to make mistakes, even with the best of intentions. It's really how you navigate those and again learn from them as well. Are there any common mistakes you see companies making in their mentor or sponsor relationships? And focusing on that mentorship piece as well. The second part of the question would be, what should people look for in a really good mentor, and how does mentorship go both ways as well, doubling down on that?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer both of those, and you'll remind me if I forget the second part. I think that the most common mistake that I've seen companies make is wanting the mentorship program to be perfect, right? They want to get 200 mentors for 200 mentees, and they want this many people in finance, and this many people in engineering, and this many people in product development, and they want it to all match up. And they want it to have formal guidelines and formal requirements and commitments and all of that. And I think really large companies can probably do that because they have product or they have program managers who can make that work. But I think even a company of 200 people, right? 400 people, you can have very informal, successful mentorship programs that are just like a call to action, right? Like, hey, we've got these 50 senior leaders. Who here would be interested in doing, a 1 hour mentorship program? What would you talk about? Would you do an Ask Melanie anything? There's all sorts of informal ways that you can reach out to large number of people and then develop organically that more one-on-one relationship. I don't think it always has to be a match, in perfect synchrony to be a good program. The second part of your question was what should you look for? And I'll sort of answer that in a backwards way, if you don't mind. The one thing I always tell people is you may see someone who you are just completely wowed by, and there is a reason why you are drawn to them, and you think they could help you in your career and they'd be a great sounding board and all the things that are terrific about mentorship. But I think it's really important on the mentee's part to remember that two-way relationship is important. And for every hour that someone gives you as your mentor, they are saying no to someone else for an hour. And so, keeping that in mind, I would say look for someone who inspires you, someone who you think is successful, whatever that means. It doesn't have to mean in your field or in your lane or any of that, but someone who you have heard maybe speak about something that really struck you. But be mindful that they're giving you their time if they agree. And so be helpful to them as well, right? Pay attention to what they're doing. Maybe send them an article that would be of interest to them. Make an introduction, right? It doesn't have to be about levels or seniority, but be sure to contribute both ways as you identify who you would like to be your mentor, because I think you're more inclined to get more out of it if it really is a two-way street.
Absolutely. I was just reading an article about reverse mentorship and being really cognizant around what you're giving to the relationship as well, whether you're sharing articles, whether you're making that introduction. I think that is a really good point as well, in terms of really cultivating a relationship from
Yeah.
both ways, from both individuals too, because everybody's time is valuable. I know you mentioned the kind of ask me anything with Melanie, and I want to kind of know about something you've launched called the Mentorship with Melanie series at Thumbtack. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, we had a gap at Thumbtack, right? We didn't have a formal organizational development leader on staff, and we take a lot of pulse surveys. We really want to make sure we're creating a good culture for our employees, and we listen to what it is that they think is going well. We lean into those things, and we listen maybe a little harder to the things they think aren't going well, and we really lean into trying to fill those gaps. And over the course of about 6 or 8 months, we started hearing a little bit more repeated that people felt they didn't have mentorship, right? They weren't sure how to get it, they weren't sure how to do it, but they felt like they wanted more career development in a one-on-one mentorship way. Well, I love to do that. I have a lot of mentors at Thumbtack and throughout other areas where I've been in my career. But we're a company of 11 or 1,200 people. You can't possibly mentor 400 people, right? Is sort of what we thought. So while we were looking to fill that gap formally, I worked with one of our HR business partners, and we just put together this 5-part series, right? So I saw a gap, something I really cared about, and I just leaned in and created the program. So we have 5 sessions. The last session, which will be in December, is Ask Melanie Anything. So people can come and they can ask any question they want about anything. But the first 4 sessions, they're each 1 hour sessions. I present something that I think is important and helpful, and things I've either learned from my mentors or that I have imparted to my mentees. I do about 25 minutes or so of like a presentation on those topics. And then we open each session up to questions either about that topic or anything. It's been actually one of the most rewarding things I've done at Thumbtack outside my actual job, because we've had over 150 people come to each of the sessions. And so if you're just touching one, two, three people with one point from each of those sessions, that's a gap that we're filling, that people were asking for. So it's been super great.
I think that is a really good example as well, because it is almost impossible to have 400 one-on-ones with folks, but you really
Yeah.
want to reach people, answer questions, and there is something to be said for kind of cohort-based learning as well, and having the opportunity to kind of listen and hear your story as well from people across all different departments at the organization too, and just have that audience. I want to ask as well, kind of the relationship between, we've been talking about really mentorship, the difference between sponsorship, and the importance of kind of building diverse teams. And then what are some strategies you've seen when you're not only building diverse teams, but you're creating environments that are inclusive and welcoming for everyone? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I have one sort of common thread that I try to weave in through all of those things. And it's pretty simple, and I hope it doesn't bore your audience, but I'm extremely intentional in my actions. So with my mentoring, or my sponsorship, or when I create diverse teams, or the way that I run my team, and I'm on several teams. So the way that I interact and show up in different teams, I try to be extremely intentional in that. And so if I'm going to mentor someone, we put the dates on for the year, right? And I say, this is your time with me. You bring the agenda, but I also always come with a little agenda, right? And I want to make sure they're thinking about the things that I think they're ready to be thinking about after we've addressed their items. For sponsorship, I am always trying to lift others up and raise their voice in rooms that I am fortunate enough to sit in, but that they're not sitting in. And I do that across the company. I mean, I lead one of the ERGs, and so I started small. I knew that population of folks in our employee resource group for the LGBTQ plus community, and I started sort of looking into their careers and where I might be able to help. And now I feel like I do it for a lot of people throughout the company. But it's that intentionality that really matters. And I'll just give one little tip that has made a big difference on my legal team. We're a team of 10. And we come from a lot of different backgrounds. We have a lot of different races, genders, sexual orientation. It's really just come together as a great team with lots of diversity on it. And what we do is every meeting, we have a weekly legal team meeting. Every meeting, we set aside 10 minutes, right? We have a 45-minute meeting, 10 minutes of that. We talk about a topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I always come with a topic, but I encourage my team to bring a topic to fill that in. And I lead with them getting to say if somebody brought something they wanted to talk about, then we do that. If not, I have something in the background. But it's just being intentional and raising issues. Sometimes it's going to be something about a pay gap that somebody read. Sometimes it's going to be someone quit and left to take a different job because they didn't think, this was a place for them because they weren't being treated fairly. Sometimes it's some awful article. I live in Denver, Colorado, and we just, got through those Colorado Springs shootings at the gay nightclub. And, that was horrific for anyone in the community and any kind of an empathetic person to the community. But my team raised that as something they wanted to create space for. I had a wonderful head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Thumbtack. She's moved on to a new role now, but her name's Deanna Smith. And she suggested that we do this intentional 10 minutes in our meetings. And it has really made a huge difference for our team. And I'm seeing it sort of spread out through other teams as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing those examples and just bringing in what's top of mind for folks into the conversation, setting aside that intentional time. And I think people know when you are being intentional, when you are being authentic. So I think that goes a long way in terms of creating those inclusive environments. Can
Yes.
you can you talk a little bit more about why, all leaders, no matter if Melanie is in the room or not, no matter what department they're in, need to have diversity, equity, and inclusion really top of mind, and how they're really responsible for creating those environments on their individual teams as well?
Yeah, I can. And, this is sort of a school of thought that has progressed over time. I mean, I remember 20 years ago when I was a baby lawyer, we talked about the business case for diversity, right? And law firms were looking to increase racial minority hiring and women hiring, and it was good for business, right? And now you can find 4,000 articles if you just do one Google search on why diversity is good for business. So we've thankfully evolved from having to prove that case over and over in business. And now we're really just sort of showing the results of that, right? And there are 100 studies that are quickly found that show that diverse teams actually perform better in all businesses. It isn't, related to tech or manufacturing or medicine or healthcare. It's really throughout all businesses. So to me, that makes it a business issue that all leaders own. Just like I'm responsible for the P&L of Thumbtack, right? Which is funny because I don't have a business degree. I'm a lawyer. But if the P&L goes wonky, I'm a leader who is responsible for that. To me, diversity, equity, and inclusion is absolutely the same. We need all of our leaders throughout all of the company to be mindful of it and to keep it top of mind and to lead out front so that their teams understand how important it is, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it is better for the people and the business performance. The other thing I would say about that, which, there isn't a ton of buy into this, but I'm seeing a few things out there on it now. I actually would rename DEI to be inclusion, equity, and diversity. Because I think if leaders, and all leaders can do this at any level throughout the company, if leaders focus on the inclusivity piece and the belonging piece, then equity and diversity follow. If you don't have an inclusive environment, then you are naturally going to struggle with some of the equity issues because you're not going to see those things. And then talent of different backgrounds and races and sexes aren't going to want to come to your organization because you're failing in those two first pieces. So again, I think all of this evolves over time. And if given the right, I would rename the order there to really focus on the inclusivity piece.
Absolutely. Why would someone want to join your team? If it's not an inclusive environment, why would someone want to stay as well? And
Correct.
these, yeah, responsibility too in terms of the work that we're doing. Here, I think this stat is disregarding sleep. We spend a third of our lives working as well. So really important to make
Yes.
environments where people feel like they could do their best work. You mentioned kind of being responsible for the P&L of the organization. And I'm sure there are folks wondering, how they work with you on a daily basis as well. Is there anything that folks who don't have a meeting with you on a daily basis would be surprised to know about you or your role at Thumbtack?
Yeah, sure. I think the role of chief legal officer or general counsel or lead counsel, whatever these titles are, it has really evolved over the years. We used to think of legal sort of as the place that things went for approval, right? And so you'd get your contract or your customer issue worked out, and then you'd go to legal for sign off. And thankfully, the field has really evolved and developed such that lawyers are really business partners. And so, just like you would go to an HR business partner to consult on something, to get feedback, to get their input, that's how I see my role at Thumbtack. I sit on our executive team and I certainly weigh in on legal risks and on the legality and the compliance of issues that we're dealing with. That's certainly, my role in the room. But I really have expanded the role, as have a lot of chief legal officers, into more of a holistic leadership position where I have thoughts, having been in business for 25 years, I have ideas about strategy and how the people team should think about different things. And I can add value to our finance reviews because I've seen things done different ways and I know how it's gone well and I know how it's gone poorly. So I think people who don't deal with lawyers on a day to day basis would be surprised at how much business sense we have and the kind of value we can bring, even if you don't have a contract in front of you or a legal risk or document.
Yeah, that expansion of the role, kind of questions you could ask as well, and just the impact on the business overall. I think that is really helpful context. I know that I've asked, specific questions around your journey to this work, what you're seeing work really well at Thumbtack in terms of mentorship and sponsorship and career development. But I want to pass the mic back to you to see if there's anything that I didn't ask that you would like to share with folks listening or underscoring any key insights you hope people bring with them.
Yeah, in preparing for this conversation with you, Christina, I really thought a lot about what's important to me about company culture. And I've been really fortunate to have great jobs through my career where the company culture has almost always been a really great values fit with me. And so I guess the thing I would impart on people is that company culture is a 360-degree exercise. It doesn't matter if it is your first job and you are in the lowest role that the company has, or if you're the CEO and the founder of the company and you've been in business a really long time. Everyone owns company culture. And when I was a child, my father used to say, and he didn't talk about company culture, I don't think it was quite as prevalent as it is now, but he used to say, be respectful of everyone, right? When I was in school, he would say, be as respectful to the principal and to the cafeteria worker as you are to one another. So make sure that everyone, regardless of role, is given the same type of respect and treatment. And to be honest, I've carried that on through my career. I show up every day sort of with that guidepost of the CEO is no more important than the person who's serving me my coffee in the morning. So ask the person who's serving you your coffee how their day's going, right? Strike up a conversation, make it so that person wants to come to work just as much as the CEO. And I think everyone has a role in that. That 360-degree concept allows everyone to make a change for the better when it comes to company culture.
Everybody does have a role to play. I definitely agree. It doesn't matter if you're a day one at a company, day 20, or year 20 as well. I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about relationship building and doing our best work. Melanie, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Christina. It was great talking to you.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening at AllVoices, we really believe in both employees and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know it's a requirement for the business to really succeed overall. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.